Can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi, my name is Nayantara, and as she said, I split my time between the Andaman Islands and Bombay, where I teach people diving, I study the ocean, and I try to protect the life inside it from exploitation. Today, I'd like to speak to you guys about why I fell in love with the sea, about how we're all so deeply connected to the big blue, and most importantly, why this connection matters. Deep inside us, I think we're all moved by the ocean to some extent. The way the breeze ripples across its surface and it reflects the setting sun going from orange to pink and just stretches out into infinity, it draws us in, but only a little. The thing is, in our very busy lives with thousands of pretty distractions and, 100 millions of gigabytes of information flying at us, a view becomes just a view. So I'd like to take you guys back into the history of this planet and into the history of you, because both began in the sea. Life on Earth began about 3.8 billion years ago, which is about 800 million years after the planet itself formed. Back then, the Earth was a very inhospitable place. So there were constant volcanic eruptions, lots of toxic gases, no oxygen, lots of UV radiation because there was no ozone layer back then. And the Earth back then was a lot like Mars or Venus are today, which is to say essentially lifeless. There was just one thing, though, that saved our planet from the fate of its intergalactic cousins, and that was that the Earth had an ocean. Here it was possible for life to take root, initially as tiny little microorganisms that the eye can't see. And over a few 100 million years, these microorganisms created the oxygen, which allows more complex life forms like ourselves to evolve, and also created the ozone layer. So for about a billion years, this fledgling life cradled in the ocean slowly and steadily reorganized the Earth and the atmosphere to allow more complex life forms to evolve. And this reorganization gave way in starts and spurts to the invertebrates, the sharks, the first fishes, the reptiles that climbed out onto land, and then eventually to mammalian life and ourselves. To this day, the larger proportion of life on Earth lives, in fact, in the ocean. Broadly, then, life began in the seas and evolved onto land. But more personally as well, our own individual lives began in the salty sack of safety in our mother's womb. Though we couldn't breathe in that atmosphere, as we can't breathe in the ocean naturally, it was probably the most safe and the most taken care of that we've ever been. The amniotic fluid that we spend the first 9 months of our life in is of a very similar salinity as seawater. And maybe that's why my first dive into the sea really felt like going home. As I dived deeper into the sea, all the superfluous sounds of Earth fell away until all I could hear was just my own breath. And my body felt weightless, free from gravity, and without the need to hold my own body weight, I guess I felt supported. And it's this single feature that allows life in the sea to grow to such stupendous sizes. The blue whale, which is not this one, but the blue whale, which is the largest animal to have ever lived on Earth, can grow up to 30 meters in length. And one of the reasons this becomes possible is that the ocean, the seawater, holds its weight. So much so that just the tongue of a blue whale can weigh as much as the biggest animal on land, which is, of course, the African elephant. And our connection with seawater, salt water, doesn't end in the womb. Our plasma is salty, our tears, our sweat, salty like the sea. Now, I'm not trying to say that this means that we carry the ocean inside us or present some kind of pseudoscientific argument for why this means you should all care for the sea, but it's just that these connections are meaningful to me. The more I learn about the ocean and the life within it, the more intriguing I find it. Unlike land, which is mainly two-dimensional, where life exists on a single plane, except for a few burrowing animals and a few flying birds, The ocean is immense, both in its size and in its depth. Not only does she cover 70% of the Earth's surface, but also it allows life to exist in 3 dimensions, right? So this image shows you the different depths to which the ocean goes. And at the deepest point, it's about 36,000 feet. So if you were to slice off the Mount Everest and put it into this deepest point, it would drown by about 1,000 meters or so, right? And in every zone of the sea, at every depth, life does exist. Yet we've invested very little energy and time and money into learning about the ocean. And as a result, we know more about the surface of the moon than we do about our own seabed. Now, everything that I know about the ocean tells me that this ignorance is a mistake, right? What little we know about the sea speaks only of small miracles. Coral reefs, which are here, which are the key organisms the key ecosystems that I work with, are these made up of these tiny little jellyfish-like organisms that have microalgae inside their tissues to photosynthesize and to give them the energy to create these massive calcium carbonate structures which can be seen all the way from the moon. Imagine that. That's like us having our farms inside of our bodies and then secreting our concrete houses out of our bottoms, right? It's pretty unbelievable. And in the same reefs, there are some animals, some fish that spend a part of their lives as male, but then metamorphosize into females when they become the largest animal in that territory. There are others, little nudibranches like this, about this big, that wave their lungs, those are their lungs up there, outside their body, and are simultaneously male and female, where they do this elaborate mating ritual, at the end of which each impregnates the other. There's lifelong pairing in the sexual sense, but also sometimes where 2 entirely unrelated species live together, fulfilling a lack that the other's body has. So for instance, the fish sees for the shrimp, which is blind, and the shrimp builds a home for both of them, since the fish doesn't have any arms. There's this guy, a 1-foot-long peacock mantis shrimp. You see the head and his eyes in this picture. And he not just has 3 types of cone cells that we have in our own eyes that allows us to see the entire spectrum of the rainbow, every single color that we're able to see. But he has 18 types of cone cells, which must paint the world for colors in him that we can't even imagine, that we don't even have names for. There are sea stars that can regrow lost limbs. There's beautiful plankton that glows in the dark sea, the astral world above, just reflected below. I can't list all the incredible things that I found underwater in the 10 minutes that I have here. And I actually don't want to, because I would really like for you guys to go and find out for yourselves. And it really saddens me that so few people do it. Because we can't breathe unsupported in the water, we feel vulnerable. We shy away from the sea, terrified to have a dip or swim or surf or snorkel. And yet the irony is that it's the ocean that we've made vulnerable. And it's she that not only created the conditions for life on Earth, but also provides us 50% of the oxygen present in the atmosphere every single day. So if you take one breath now, and then take another, one of these 2 came to you from the sea. As did the monsoons that grow our crops and brings us rainfall, fresh water to drink. And so regardless of whether or not we live next to the sea, whether we eat seafood, or even whether we enjoy the ocean or not, we really need it. And in our ignorance of the sea, we do it irreparable damage. We eat tuna, not knowing the magnificence of the fish, the fact that it migrates thousands of kilometers every year, and that it's similar to eating tigers or lions on land. They're predators that high. We fear sharks, not knowing that we are their biggest predators and that we kill them at the rate of 11,417 per hour. every time I say that number, I feel the need to check on Google to just double check because it just seems so ridiculously large. 90% of all the big fish in the ocean are now lost, removed by us. And we use our biggest resource as a big giant dustbin, infusing it with plastics, oil, effluents, old missiles, radiation, you name it. And maybe we feel that, looking at its depth and its size, that our activities can't really change it all that much. In the past 100-odd years, we've changed its pH value, its temperature, its layers, its level, its very essence. And we know so little about the sea that we don't even know what these changes are going to mean to us. But I don't want to leave you with a sense of hopelessness. For despite everything, we still have a lot, right? So I've dived with hundreds of sharks like this in the Galapagos Islands, which are powerful predators, and they've survived the dinosaurs. I was diving once in the Lakshadweep Islands when a pod of dolphins passed by me. And just as I was a little bit sad that I guess they didn't find me as interesting as I found them, a young dolphin turned around and came back to me. And she stood vertically in front of me. Literally, I could touch her, looking straight into my eyes. And for a moment, it was just me and her. The other divers had gone on the boat. Her pod had moved on. And maybe we were both a bit curious about each other's lives. I've also seen acres of dead reef, but also sometimes new beginnings, right? Tiny coral recruits, which I hope will in time grow. So the message I'd like you to leave you with is that don't accept ignorance. Explore the ocean, let it touch you, and learn about the ocean. I guess learn about your favorite seafood. Is it sustainable or not? Learn about these mysterious, unpronounceable ingredients in your beauty products. We're all very quick to blame China for the shark fin soup, but what about the shark liver oil in some of the shampoos that we use, And learn about the cost of your consumption, and I don't mean its price tag in rupees. And then make your choice. So I'm going to leave you with this picture of a tiny little chromis fish, you can see her there, defending her massive fan coral against my much, much bigger self. And I really hope that one day you guys will get to see her too, and maybe do your bit in protecting the home that's as much yours as it is hers. Thank you very much for your time.